Hi there, this is Sanjay from GSOC, and I'm the senior program manager at GSOC as well. So I hope most of you are familiar with my face. And here we have Akshit, and he will be talking about how to scale up your college projects to a real world industry standard projects. And in this section, you will be learning a lot of things, which is basically like how exactly you can scale up a project and how to approach a real world coding challenges and tip for understanding some of the college projects into how you can scale up into a professional grade level. And he will be also talking about key tools and technologies in software developments like TypeScript, Java, Spring Boot, and React. And he will also give you some insight about sustainable tech and how to do the best practices in the industry. And as you all doing the GitHub open source program over here and along with the Hacktoberfest, those tips would be really beneficial for you to be a coding guy who's like following and the entire standard practice in the industry, and this would definitely help to scale up your career. So we have planned to do this live session in a Q&A method like how we used to do before. By saying that, I would like to invite Akshit Batra to talk a bit about himself and give you an idea about what he do. And um, yeah, thank you. So I'm just passing over to Akshit. Akshit, you can take over right now.
Sure. Thanks, Sanjay, for the lovely introduction. Yeah, I will just probably start with introducing myself. So my name is Akshay. I'm currently working as a senior consultant developer at ThoughtWorks. So it's been close to 4 years in the tech industry, and also done Masters of Computer Application from IT University. So yeah, probably we'll just go on a bit on a journey. So like worked on multiple tech stack, starting from some data project, some Node very basic Node project, and then spending some time on Spring Boot, and on a full stack part. Then currently working on Node.js, Nest.js also. So yeah, worked on varied tech stack. Right? Now, probably we'll just start on a basic context setting. So, like how the journey of college versus how the project journey in office or industry works. So, the college was like a very small, short-lived. We have a very smaller time, 3 months, 6 months, and a maximum of an year to span into 2 semesters, and that's the maximum a life journey of a project is. And we majorly see a very small team working on it, right? So like a person, 1%, 2% are working, or like maximum 4 or 5% maximum are working on a project, right? And then we see a very small scale project. We do not care a lot on the quality. We do not care about all the okay how much people would be using this product. So we try to also we like the in college has a very random thing. Okay, you have to comment all your code, while in the industry says okay, you want to have the clean coding practices. So your code should be self-explanatory, that you don't do not need to add comments itself. Right. So also in industry you see a project are already there, right? So it's been a very long project, work on the in the market for 10 years, and then you go and you have a very long, large code base, right? So you have tremendous amount of code base. You need to understand okay how to begin, how to start, how to set up it locally, and like if people have seen good open source project, you will understand that a lot of time it's too hard to even set up the whole project in your local, and then you whole start to understand okay where the project starts, where it goes, like, and how to understand the coding standards. So in college project we do not have a lot of coding standards. So we just write whatever code we like. We do not have a naming convention. We do not have any we do not follow very good standard practices for the language, like we do not follow the coding practices by like I said, Java says we want camel case, Python say we want snake case, right? So we have different type of cases for naming convention functions, right? So we see a lot of difference in that. And in industry product, right? So we have a very large scale base, and then the team also varies, right? So now in industry, you might have a separate team. Okay, someone is handling whole front end, someone is handling whole back end, and you have a set of responsibility. But then you see a full stack role where you are doing all of the part. So you are also handling front end, you're also handling the back end, you're also writing the DB queries. So the team dynamics make a lot of difference in that. Yeah, I think it's a quick basic. Yeah,
Right.
Ajay, if you have some questions.
We will be taking the questions later. So at the moment, we can have a Q&A session with me right now. So by saying that, what we do in the GSOC is like we do have around 200 plus projects, and it's basically like most of them are like a very beginner friendly. So the main idea of a girl script is something like to teach people or a friendly way of doing the open source, which can eventually help them to scale up into a bigger programs like these Google Summer of Code or MLH or something like that. So definitely this particular live session now or later through the newsletters is going to be helpful for a lot of people scaling up their projects. All right. So by saying that, what are the main difference between the college projects and industry standards projects which you have come across? Is it something like a coding practices? Is it something like about the continuous integration or continuous development thing they are doing or something like that? So I would like to know about your insights about that right now.
Hmm. So it's more on one is like obviously continuous development and no integration, because as you're doing working in a team, right? In Caliper, you might not be deploying it. You not might be not seeing in the production how that works. You're just probably running in your local. You don't know how to deploy. Might not be using Git very well, right? So in a team, you see, okay, everything should be, you should write your own code, but it should not break someone else's code, right? So you need to be mindful of what you add and what other has added, right? So the team game, you understand, okay, if I add something, it should not fail the test case. It should not decrease the quality of a software, a product, or a project, right? And then when we see in industry, we have a quite of quality standard, right? So let's say we do not want an application to be insecure, right? We want security practices. We want to make our application more accessible, right? So it's easier for people to understand. So let's say we have screen readers. So like image tag, we have alt tag, right? So screen reader can read it. We want to make the theme so that it's easier for even color blind people can see, right? So
Right. So the current question is like continuation of the last one. So how can as a student make their college projects into more relevant to the industry needs? As you can see that there would be a lot of limitation when doing the continuous integration or development, because that involves pricing sometimes or scaling up the projects from using their own hosting servers or something like that. That would challenging for the students. So is there any platform where they can get the things for free, or any suggestion from your side on that perspective?
So we have a lot of like free, like if you see, if you're making a web project which is fully UI, right? It does not include a backend and a database. So we have a lot of free service like GitHub Pages is one, Netlify is one, and when you go to backend, we have Vercel is a good provider, right? And it's also not very cheap, very expensive. And if you see cloud provider like GCP and AWS has a student thing. So for like 1 year, AWS gives you free credits. So you can also go and create a free account on AWS. Google Cloud gives you $300 credits, right? So cloud providers are willing to give you some free credits, so you get the hang of it. Just that you need to understand, how much you use it. So let's say Netlify gives you monthly credit. So if you deploy this much code in a month, you can get it for free, right? So probably you can might have to time out. Okay, I will only push this much code to Netlify, so I can use it for a month for free, and then the next cycle comes and the free cycle goes again. Right.
Right. So again, this is again a continuation. So by developing a code, or developing a project, you kind of set up a kind of skill sets during this particular process. So while transitioning to from being a student to an employee in an industry, so what are the skills which you think that which is like most valuable in that transition process?
Right. So I would say a lot of people, like on LinkedIn and every social media has, showcase the, okay, you need DSA, right? So DSA is one, so you need to understand data section algorithms. That's good for your, placement and all. Like, a lot of product company are totally focusing on that part. But the main part is you need your core development skills. So even if you crack the interview, you do not know how to make a project, you don't know how to build a project. So you will be, on very much radar. Okay, you don't know how to do it. You just know DSA. So I would say a mix of both. So you understand how to make a project from scratch, make take it to a bit of maturity level. Okay, let's
Right.
say if you want to create a specialization. Okay, I like some people might prefer. Okay, I'm a UI developer. I'm a creative side. So I want to develop my skills more on a UI. So you understand, okay, we have different roles. Like we have a UI developer, we have a backend developer, we have a DevOps person, right? So you need to understand what your strength is and probably focus on developing that strength first. You understand, okay, this is my skill set, and probably create a niche around it. Okay, let's say you like UI, so create UI projects, talk about on LinkedIn, talk about on Twitter, go to community events, talk about more on what you do, what you have skill set you have developed, right?
Right. We have a question over here like what about UI and UX designer perspective?
Yeah, so on a creative side, UX and UI might seem very closer, but let's say we have as a UI developer, right? So you are majorly designing, just writing the code of the website or application. UX is as a higher level is for experience, right? So you need to think about from a customer perspective, a product perspective. How do you make the experience be better, right? So let's say
Right.
that do the user want 5 pages to perform a simple task? Can you simplify the journey, right? So let's say phone pay, right? So let's say you want to pay something, right, on phone pay. Would you want a 5 level step journey, or would you just open the app, have a button in the center, click, scan, and pay, right? So you want to simplify the application as a user journey, like what all features you have a product. So UX might goes on a part. Okay, you have tools like Figma, you have Adobe XD. So you're majorly designing the flow. Okay, how the product will looks like, how the user journey looks like, and you cannot do a lot of coding, right? UI is majorly you would probably doing a lot of coding. Like, so UX, there will be UX person in your team who design the flow, who understand the whole product, and then you would be coding that part to make it a reality, right? So
Right.
the coding part will come in UI, and the UX is on a higher level, product designing, product architecturing.
Right. I get it. So when you come to the industry level, how important is the teamwork? And apart from teamwork, does the student know any particular tools or technology to be handy before they move as employee?
Sorry, the team works as in.
Uh, um, like how important teamwork in industry projects comparing to the college projects?
Ah, yeah, so I would say it depends on the company, right? So a lot of time, as I would say, as a fresher, they might each company has their own dynamics, right? To be honest, right? So a lot of time you're individual contributor. So I would say in internship you might have a solo project, but as a team you would have at least some people, someone who will tell you okay what to do. Someone who's okay as a BA person, a product person who will tell okay this is the feature what they want, and as a team grows, I would say, let's assume we have a team. So I've like worked on 5 projects. Right? So I've seen a varied type of teams. So in like client-based companies, right? So like a consulting company, you always have a team on client side, and you also have a team on your side, right? So you have a dynamics. Okay, you might be working on your own, or you might be working, together with a team. But major idea is you have a team, because the one person can't make the whole project, right? So you always have a team. Everyone might not be contributing to the same thing. So like, let's say you are a UI developer and someone is a backend developer. So let's say you're working as a team, but you might not be uh, working on the same code itself. But as a together product, you are working in a team, right?
Right, get it. So adding on to that, we have a question over here, like which skills are most often underestimated by students? Maybe you can touch upon in basis of the soft skills of the students.
Right, right. So I would say one soft skill is yes, right. So even if you are very good at tech skill, right, if you can't explain, you can't word out what you want to do, right, you won't crack an interview, right. So even if you are very good at technology, you don't know how to, formulate your ideas. You are very scared of your, voicing out your opinions, right, or challenging the someone's view, right, because the interviewer might push on some random question just to test how you handle pressure. So you need to, handle a bit, probably do a lot of mock interviews, understand, how to voice out, how to handle the random question, because interviewer will not ask a straight question every time, right? So you need to understand, how to voice out. Also, the presentation is also very needed, right? So in industry, you don't always do coding. You also need to prepare showcases. You also need to do KTs, like knowledge transfers. You need to tell, okay, what you have worked on. So you are getting a topic. You have worked on something. You need to tell the whole team what you have worked on, right? So you need a lot of experience with a presentation skill, and which is, I think, a lot of people have ignored in college, right? Right.
Right, get it. Then the next one would be something like, so how can students effectively showcase their college projects in their resume? So this is one tricky part. Like people tend to do put some high level context of their projects, and when it comes to interview, they were not able to answer any of this. So how do you suggest students to put it in a way that okay, it can get beneficial for them?
Right. So I would say one, create a solid project. Like if you have worked on a project, understand it thoroughly. Because question, if you have a very good project, your interview flow might already be on your project itself. Right. So like whatever you have worked on, probably I would say like there are two type of project. Right. So there's like one is you have understood a problem and you want to create a solution for it. Right. The other is a learning project, right? So let's say you are very new to a new tech stack, and you want to touch upon all the basics, or all the concepts of the project, right? So let's say if someone wants to go in a fintech industry, and they have created a e-commerce or a payment gateways project, right? So you can always say, okay, I have created this project just to learn the concepts, and then you can let's say when an interview comes, right, you can okay say, I have created this project just to understand this functionality, and that they can just code the use case. Okay, like this problem happened and I have resolved it using this solution. This was a very tricky challenge, and so it also gives the perspective. Okay, right. So it also gives you a very understanding perspective that uh, sorry. Yeah, so like, it gives you a perspective that you have worked on a challenge, and you are able to understand, you have done a thorough research on a problem, and you have resolved a challenge, right? And then the other is you have found a problem statement. So let's say you see a lot of hackathon going on, right? So you see very interesting case study, you create a project around it. So like if you say SIH, right, Smart India Hackathon, so they have a very interesting problems, like 300 case studies every year, right? So you go and pick a very interesting problem, create a project, and then understand and showcase that project, right? And then I think one idea is you also add GitHub links, right? So you can always point out, okay, no, you can go and see the code itself, right? Because you can't write the whole project in 3 line or 1 page of resume, right? So you need a very crisp part of what you have added, what features you have added, or what all what all you have worked on, so that it narrows the questions. So let's say the project is very high scale, right? But you have only worked on UI or only worked on backend. So if you tell, it's your questions are very centered. It's not like they will ask a random question. Okay, if okay, what's the UI? What's the backend? Right.
Get it. So we have one question over here, which is like, what type of project would be useful to have in the resume?
I would say more like so one is that you can understand there are very we would say a lot of very generic projects. But I would say if you have an industry in mind or a company in mind, probably targets a project on that specific use case. So let's say what you're what targeting Google, right? So you know what industry Google work on, probably to create some projects in the same industry or same niche what they work on. So it's easier for them. Okay, we have already worked on this person had the exact skill set. Let's call him for interviews, call someone for interview, right? And
Right.
then you let's say you just want to understand the topic, right? So learning project is good, right? So you can always say I have mentioned these 3 projects, but I have worked on a lot of project which is on my GitHub. So that's how you see a very interesting digital resume, right? So you can always create more than 3 projects, 5 projects, right? So but does that you add in the resume only the project you are most comfortable in, because the question might go very centered on that.
Right. Get it. And there are a few more questions coming in, so I think we have planned this question to ask. So, how should student approach learning new technology for their projects?
Right. So I would say more on first understand problem statement, right? And then you understand which is the best tech for it, right? So let's say if I want to create an AI application, and then I need to understand, okay, what's the best programming language for it, right? Or let's say the easiest learning language, right? So now I would say understand how much time you have and how fast you want to build, right? So now let's say if someone say, okay, there's a trend going on with ChatGPT, right? And I want to make a very quick application or project on it, right? So I will see which is the programming language which is easiest to build the project on. So we might see, okay, Python is very easy. Python has a lot of functionality around it. So I will probably go and see, I will start learning Python. And let's say if you want to be more challenging, challenge yourself, try doing with a programming language which is not the first choice. So let's say I am comfortable with Java. Probably can I do it with Java? Or I'm comfortable with C sharp? Can I do the same thing with C sharp, right? So now you need to understand how much time you have, what you want to learn, or do you want to play on your strength, right? And try to build around a problem statement which is easier to map it out, because question will be centered around that only.
All right, got it. So, what advice would you give for managing time effectively on projects? At the end, it all upon how well you manage your time on your personal projects and other things. So, how would you recommend on time management stuff?
Yeah, so time management, I would say there's always a trade-off, right? So you might have to decrease some, take out time some from something. So let's say if you go to college, you have a very much of travel time, right? You will miss a lot of things, but you always have weekend, right? You can probably figure out, okay, what to do. But then I will say there's also very quick sprints, right? So you can probably go, you go to YouTube, you will see a lot of 2 hours, 3 hours tutorials. go s- Make a quick project around it and then reuse that skill to a different project, right? Or probably go to hackathon, spend 10 hours with a team, build the whole project very very quick sprint, right? So you will see a very dedicated time. You have a very, so constrain yourself that okay, if I can build this in 2 days, challenge yourself, probably create sprints for yourself. And then whenever you have some time, right, so take out small tasks which you can build, right. So let's say you get half an hour, what you can do, right, probably do it around it. If you're stuck on a problem, if you're traveling, probably read about the problem, understand, probably divide the concepts. So let's say you're reading about something, learning about something, to read. If you have a lot of travel time, read in the way, go home, you get some time, code around it, then you find a problem. Also, I would say team is a very good thing. So let's say if you're stuck on a problem, you do not know, right, find a good mentor. That person might be able to help out a very bit, that might person will unblock you a long time, right. So also a beauty of teamwork, right. So in the industry you will say okay, there's one lead person who has worked in industry for 10 years, and he has seen a lot of problems like this, right. So you're stuck for a problem for like 3 days, and then you went to that person, I don't know, he resolved in like 5-10 minutes, right. So if you find a issue, probably find a mentor, find someone who's already knows it, uh, create a group of friends, who can discuss the topics with, be a part of a community. Like I think GirlScript is a very good, you have a tech channels and all, right. Put the doubts here, unblock yourself, learn fast, you know.
Right. So adding to that, what role does the version control play in industry projects? Do all the projects has this version control thing like how we used to do on the open source?
Yeah. So majorly, you will see Git is a widely accepted, but there's also other version control tools, right? So version control is a very good way, right? So now you see you have a journeys, right? So now you are developing constantly, but then you also say, for one, as a team, right? So you version control tool helps you, like two people are working on the same thing on a different version, and when you merge, you have two different, copies, right. So version control
Right.
also lets you go back. So let's say you created a new feature, and it fails something, other, something fails, you can always go back. If you do not have version control, you will see a lot of issue with that, right. So systems which needs a faster recovery always have version control tools. Also, even database has version control, not Git per se, but they have copies for data copies, right. So like AWS cloud also keeps a copy, which is using to go back. And like say right now, Google Docs also started this, right. So you make a change, everything is versioned, you can always go back to old version, right. So also, like, I have seen a lot of freshers, having a challenge in Git, right. So the first challenge is the Git merge, resolving the conflict, right. So if you know a bit, it will saves a lot of time when you actually work in the industry.
Right. I'm trying to link the current existing topic to the one of the question asked. So, do the clone project matters? Like most of the people tend to work on open source, and mostly it's like forked repositories. So, working on these forked repositories really give an advantage, or should they develop something everything from the scratch by their own?
I would say in open source, yes, it's a good addition because one, people understand, you know how to work in a team, like I would say there are levels of open source, right. So there are high quality open source project. Like say, let's say you have a open Google is maintaining an open source project, right, and you have contributed to that. So a lot of projects has a very good quality level, right. And then you can also showcase, okay, I have contributed to something in Google project, right. So one, it's a very good point. And also people understand, you know how to work in a team, you know how to read the code, you have maintained enough quality standard, you have understand the quality, the coding standard for that. And then you have effectively given back to the community, right.
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 So, adding to that, what are the best practices for writing maintainable code? Um,
So I would say, so like there are like different phases, right? So in college, right, we don't see a very, the project very short lived, right? So we do not care a lot of this one. But when we say in an industry, right? So how to make it maintainable is always it's a journey, right? So as you
Right.
add more code, it's like a repetitive process, right? So you always document. Let's say you have a good documentation of what features you have added, what the APIs are documented, your codes are readable, right? So you might not comment a lot of code, but your code is readable enough, self-explanatory code, right? And then
Right.
you also see a very much of so there is a habit of ADR. So there's one architecture decision records. So let's say you make any design changes, right? So let's say you go to a cloud, right? Or you probably make a choice to add a new library, right? So probably do a record. Okay, this is a new thing which we will adding in our tool, and then this is like all the what all we have discussed, right? And there's also, so we understand, okay, you record all your decisions, you record all the features, right? So you have a very well documented code, right? And then it's easy, clean code,
Right.
documented, and you have a very understanding, and then you have the whole journeys, right? So let's say for first release I had this much of features, for the second release we will be having these features, because also we have a team, right? So everyone, we will see a knowledge transfer, new people comes, old people goes, so we see that transition rate. So there will be some people who's a feature lead, or the go-to guy or go-to person for that under feature.
Get it. So, what should student focus on when preparing for interview related to coding, or any specific programming language you recommend to people who not yet started their journey as a coding career?
I would say choose anything which you find comfortable, or anything which is in your course, right? But understand the basics, right? So the basic jargons, basic concepts around it, because a lot of times people are, a lot of interviews are more open-ended, right? So choose whatever language. This is a problem, right? So they will have a very open-ended question. Okay, probably let's say DSA, right? Whatever programming which you are comfortable. Let's say you find C++ very cool, you find Java very interesting, or you find Python very interesting, right? So have a go-to programming language which you are most comfortable in, and try to understand the basics. So let's say you say algorithms, you say basic constructs, you see basic data structures, right? So which, all the concepts which which will help you to resolve the problem which is given on the spot, right? But if, let's say, if you someone chooses a language and they do not know the syntax, right, so that gives a bad impression, because it was an open choice, right?
Right. So by saying that, I think we should move on to the questions which the students has been asked over here. So I will pick up few random questions over here. So Paramir asked about, I have few full stack React Native projects on using Google Maps API, but I have only one project and I'm a fresher. So I hope his question is something like, will this one particular project would help him to scale up or not? If I'm right.
I think it would be fine as long as you know in and out around it,
I hope you.
right? Right. So probably, add a good description on your resume. Okay, what you have built, what all features you have, and what you have, worked around it. And then if you get into an interview, talk about it. Okay, like this is the best project you had, and explain all around it. Right. So yeah, one good project is enough. Just that we go with two projects so that it's it goes into multiple lens. But one is also good enough.
Right. So we have another one over here. How to get up yourself with a speed to new technologies like Firebase, Next.js. Azure in the rapid changing era?
Uh, yeah, so I think one probably like there are a lot of roadmaps, right? So I think there is one a good open source tool. So if you see roadmap.sh, so it's a good go-to guide like for multiple tech stacks. So you will have see the very basic constructs. Okay, what all basic concept you should know, what all extra concept you should know. So you get a whole roadmap of a technology. So you have multiple there like AWS, Azure might be there. So one is you follow a roadmap, you understand the basic constructs and all, and the other part is you go on YouTube, find a project which talks about this. So write probably all the tech stack you have, find a quick tutorial, try to make a project around it. Right. So you will see a lot of 2 hour, 3 hour, 5 hours projects. So which talks around it. Okay, I want to make a project around Firebase. So yeah,
Right.
if you see this
So
roadmap of it has a yeah. Go ahead.
adding to that, I would suggest people to focus on the AI related thing. For example, GitHub Copilot, because they do have the GitHub Universe happening in 2 hours from right now, and they are pushing GitHub Copilot to a lot of companies at the moment. So getting in touch with the AI tools would be really beneficial for you moving ahead. Because if you don't learn how to use the GitHub Copilot, I think you will be left back in these upcoming years of coding. It's my point of thoughts, because most of the organization use these AI tools these days, and if you know how to do the exact prompt engineering, then you can do things in a very pretty much productive way. That's what I believe. So what about you, Akshit? Any thoughts on the AI tools?
I have seen a lot of people, but I think I would say understand your basics and use AI as a helping tool, right? Like because if you don't know the logic around it, even AI can't help you, right? So
Right.
understand the problem first, and then use AI to help you out. But yeah, it's industry is a lot of companies have used this. A lot of teams have started using Copilot as a means. It's just fast your own development process, right? So it's a good skill to learn.
All right. Then Aisha has asked regarding what is small things can students do to build a strong coding habit.
It's more on consistency, right? So do make something, right? So probably even if you go on lead code and do daily problem, it's a good habit, right? Also probably GSOC is there, right? So probably contribute to open source project, find an issue, challenge yourself, build something, create something on a regular basis, be consistent around it. Or even if you do not do, probably learn to read the code, understand how the code works, go to a random project, understand how it works. Because if you are not able to understand the syntax, you won't be able to contribute itself, right? So yeah, be
All right.
consistent on what you do.
Got it. So we do have another question over here, which is like, what should we do? What should we include in our resume if we don't have much experience? And are personal projects helpful in interview? If yes, how should we talk about them?
Yeah, as a fresher, you don't have experience, right? So you probably keep one project which talks about what all you want, right? So let's say if you want to uh, be a full stack developer in industry, right? So you have one or two project which is very good on a multi full stack scope, right? So you have worked a bit on UI, you have worked on a bit on backend, you have worked on a database. So if you just understand what role would you want, and then you create a project around it, and so that is it's in multiple lanes, right? uh, and then how it's helpful is so if you have a good project, so let's say I had a good project in my resume, and my whole interview flow went like, okay, what was the project about, how was the database looks like, and even the queries were around that only, right? So if you have a very good project, your whole interview might be around it only, because interviewer wants to have a directional flow, right? So if you do not have do not have a lot of data on your resume, they would have to create on something randomly, right? So then it will, a very random and surprise thing for you.
Got it. So one more question is like I think this would be can be our last question. So I have contributed to an open source project by forking it. Do I have to keep the forked repository on my GitHub to showcase my contribution, or should I remove it? Um, Maybe from my point of perspective, I think it doesn't matter if you keep it or remove it. Focus on your learnings. What would you say, Akshit, on this?
I will folk would be much bigger issue. I would say if you mention, okay, you have contributed a project, interviewer might ask, okay, what you have contributed, how you find the project, right? And like, how easy was it? So probably even if you remove the fork repo, you understand what you have worked on, right? So because the quality of code you contributed or the what was the project about would add a lot more value.
I get it. So, by saying that, it was really nice to have you here and talk about these things. And what I will be doing is like the as a content of what we discussed is so good. We'll be pushing a more of newsletters with our recorded live session, and so more people can utilize this session and learn from it. And I do understand it's a Diwali celebration is going on, and most of the people are like in a festive mood, so they couldn't turn it up right now. So anyway, the live session will be always available on the YouTube, and they will be definitely make it useful. And I will be sharing your LinkedIn profile as well, so if anyone reach out to you asking any questions, that would be great help for them to uh, you know uh, get it sorted or something like that. And by saying that, thanks Akshit for joining with the GSOC live session series. And again, thank you for helping a lot of people questions regarding their careers and potential opportunity regarding how to scale up their personal projects to industry standard level. And personally, I felt like more impressive, like it's on point, there is no slides, it's just like a pure talks. So yeah. And by saying that, thank you for joining again. We'll be ending this live session right now. Thank
Sure,
you.
thank you.